So today I'm going to be doing a video that is on the disappearance of Lars Mittank, and I did look up how to pronounce his last name, so hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. He is from Germany, so I'm not sure if it's said different in German. I'm sure it is, but anyways, this is going to be an ASMR whispered video, and I'm also using my mini mic again, and yeah, I'm just going to get right into it. So this case is one that has always creeped me out and made me very unsettled, as many true crime cases do, and I think part of the reason for that is that there was security camera footage of Lars on the day that he disappeared, and because of that, he was dubbed as the most famous missing person on YouTube because people were watching this security camera footage and just trying to figure out what happened, and it added an extra creepy element to the whole case. Okay, so I am reading from allthat'sinteresting.com, and I'm not going to go into super great detail about every little thing with this case, obviously, but I'm just going to go over the main points and talk about what happened to him, or what people think happened to him, because we still don't know. Okay, so this whole situation happened when Lars Mittank, a 28-year-old from Berlin, Germany, joined his friends on holiday or vacation to Bulgaria in 2014 and never made it back home. Lars was born on February 9th, 1986 in Berlin, and at age 28 he joined his friends on a trip to Varna, Bulgaria, and they stayed at the Golden Sands Resort on the Black Sea coast. At one point during this trip, he got into a fight with four men at a bar, and they were arguing over soccer and which team was better. And it says that SV Werder Bremen or Bayern Munich, those were the two teams that they were fighting over. So Mittank was a fan of the Werder team, and then the other four supported Bayern. I hope I'm saying all this right, but I probably am not, so I apologize. So basically, yeah, they just had a seemingly petty argument over these two soccer teams, and Mittank left the bar before his friends did, and they allegedly did not see him until the next morning. And when he finally turned up to the resort that they were staying at, he told his friends that he had been beaten up, and his friends had different accounts for what happened, and they had varying details on what happened and what he said to them about this alleged fight. And it says some told authorities that Mittank was beaten by the same group of men he clashed with inside the bar, while others claimed that the men had hired a local to do the job for them. So interesting, different accounts from his friends on that. And it says, regardless, Mittank walked away from the incident with an injured jaw and a ruptured eardrum. He eventually went to see a local doctor who prescribed him 500 milligrams of the antibiotic cefprozil to prevent his wounds from becoming infected. He was also told that he should stay behind while his friends headed home because of this injury, so that's a pretty severe sounding injury. I mean, the ruptured eardrum especially, so obviously it sounds like he got hit on the side of his head, on one side of his head. And then his friends offered to stay with him and delay their flight until he was all healed up and ready to go, but he told them that it was fine. He urged them to go without him, and he scheduled a later flight. physician told him this, he seemed very, very stressed, and he was not put at ease because of this. It says, according to the physician, Mittank looked nervous and asked him questions about the medication he was taking. The airport was undergoing refurbishment, and during Mittank's consultation, a construction worker entered the office. Mittank was overheard saying, "I don't want to die here, I have to get out of here," and before getting up to leave. After dropping his belongings on the floor, he ran down the hill. Outside the airport, he climbed over a fence, and once on the other side, he disappeared into a nearby forest and was never seen again. Sorry, my stomach is making noises because I just ate. So now it's going to go into some of the theories that people have about what happened to Lars. The first one is, according to Dr. Todd Grande, a certified mental health counselor who covered Lars' disappearance on his YouTube channel. I'm sure a lot of you watching this have heard of Dr. Grande. I've watched a lot of his videos, and he has a really good channel. He said that Mittank had no known history of mental illness. A popular theory is that Mittank was looking for an excuse to run away and start a new life. Grande doubts this, however, because Mittank was on good terms with his loved ones. His friends offered to reschedule their flight, and he didn't have to fly back alone. He was texting his mother, calling her throughout the trip. He didn't seem like he had any issues with anyone. And he also didn't take anything with him when he fled the scene after the security guard or the construction worker walked into the physician's office. He left his passport, his phone, and his wallet at the airport, so if he was running away to start a new life, why wouldn't he bring anything with him? Another theory holds that Mittank was involved with some kind of criminal enterprise that neither his loved ones nor authorities knew about. Drug trafficking, perhaps. While this theory would explain why Mittank was never found, there's little evidence to support it. Yet another possibility is that Mittank really was killed while staying behind in Bulgaria. He told his mother that he was being followed, and many online sleuths suspect that the men he fought with at the bar were still after him. If they were in pursuit, it could explain why Mittank ran away, and also could explain why no one ever found his body. A fourth theory holds that Mittank could have been under the influence of drugs around the time of his disappearance. A lot of people believe the cefprozil that he had been prescribed to treat his ruptured eardrum, possibly combined with another substance, might have led him to suffer some kind of psychotic episode. Strange as it sounds, it's not impossible. Dizziness, restlessness, and hyperactivity are listed as some of the common side effects, and I find it interesting that they included that because it's like those seem to be very mild side effects. You know, I really don't think that the medication caused it, and also I've heard varying accounts of this, but apparently he didn't even take the medication because he was afraid of what it would do to him. So he got it filled, but he never actually consumed the medication, and I don't know if that's ever been confirmed, but I think that's a very important element that would be very helpful for investigators to know about. So it says, if Mittank was suffering from psychosis, the cefprozil he was taking may have not been its direct cause. In his video, Dr. Grande proposes Mittank may experience first break psychosis or the onset of something like schizophrenia. This, he argues, would explain his paranoia, delusions, and anxiety, and it also could explain the bizarre behavior displayed on the video on YouTube of him running through the airport. And that is pretty much all of the theories, and that pretty much covers the case. They still have not found him, and like the article says, he disappeared in 2014, so it's been a long time. missing into the wilderness or in a very open area, I think that it's kind of a common thing where investigators unfortunately do not locate their bodies because there's so much wilderness to comb over, and even though it seems like they cover so much of it, it's easy to miss remains. Unfortunately, it's happened many times. So I think that the most likely theory is that he had some kind of psychotic episode and he fled into the wilderness and he probably succumbed to the elements. But I don't know. Obviously, we don't know. I feel so bad for his family, obviously, and I also feel very, very bad for his friends because I'm sure they felt guilty for not staying with him and not delaying their flight with him. But they shouldn't feel guilty. Obviously, hindsight is 20/20, but it's just a very, very sad situation. And he was so young. He was only 28 years old, and I wish that he could have just gotten the help that he needed. If this was some kind of psychotic episode, I wish that, he would have just stayed put, or he would have just gone on the flight and gotten home and then gotten help for whatever was going on. But once again, I don't know if that's actually what happened. Nobody does. And I do think that I hope that his remains are found eventually, or more evidence comes up that helps investigators to solve this case, because it's very frustrating that they haven't found anything, no remains, nothing. So, very bizarre case, and very sad, obviously. So, that is going to be it for this video. I hope that